go. So you see things are pretty much untouched and quiet across our area right now. I'm going to show you the satellite and radar here in just a moment. There's not a ton of even rainfall happening in our area right now, and I'll explain what the reason is for that here in just a minute. But the temperatures themselves actually are cold enough in most spots to support freezing rain. Take a look at this temperature map. This is so impressive and just shows you again, we've been talking about this a lot for the last couple of days, but just the absolute massive system that we're dealing with across multiple states here in the US. And it kind of all comes to a head where this cold front is sitting. And this is what will be driving our severe weather chances for later in the day. So this little section of the deep south portions of Mississippi, Alabama, and southern Georgia will be kind of the only untouched air that this front is going to have to work with in terms of severe weather potential today. You can see everywhere else to the north, to the east, to the west of that is all way much colder, and they do not have the right ingredients to support any type of severe weather. So it's just this green untapped section of the atmosphere here that this front is going to be working with as we head into the rest of the day. I also want to show you this view to show you the wedge pattern setting up here in this area as well. Something strange that has gone on with the wedge this morning is that it's gone kind of a little bit further to the east than it normally does. So normally with the wedge, we kind of see it take on this shape right here where it just digs into the northern portions of our counties. And that's kind of where we see the cutoff almost in the middle of our viewing area, as opposed to what's going on right now, which is this wedge pattern is digging down to the east. So it's got more of a dividing line like this across our area as opposed to like that. That's a lot of drawing that I just did on there, but I'll show you on our local temperature map here as well. So as opposed to us normally seeing, again, the wedge taking a dividing line right here like this, the dividing line in our area has a little bit more of an easterly component. It's a little bit more like this. You can kind of see that just by looking at the temperature difference across the area. We've got low 30s, and again, all of this air here below freezing. So these regions, these counties that are in the advisory, but also a couple of counties that are a little bit east and south of that, have the potential to support freezing rain should rainfall begin in those areas. Obviously, this section is still way too warm, but even a couple of these northern counties are still too warm as well. So we have the cold air in place. We just don't have a lot of the rainfall out there early this morning. What's kind of happened here is two things mainly. One, you can take a look at the motion of this rainfall at the moment, and it's got a little bit more of a northeasterly component to it than just a due easterly component. So instead of sweeping directly east across our area like this, we're seeing it move a little more like this. So it's almost kind of missing us here. And that's why we haven't had quite as much rainfall. Not only that, but there's been a bit of a dry sector to this rainfall as well. So it's also just been drier. There's not as much moisture out there to work with this system. And that's not only for us, but also for portions of northern Georgia, which has been good for them. But I'll show you here in a moment, they're still seeing some pretty high impacts. So when we flip over to the radar, we take away the cloud cover. I know it may look like we kind of have nothing going on here in the area. If you were watching our coverage last week when we had snowfall, we have to kind of play in between these two radars to get a good idea of what's really going on here. And it may not look like we have a ton going on in Jasper and Putnam, but I have seen on the satellite and at different levels in the atmosphere, it does look like we at least have some form of mixed precip in Jasper, Putnam, and potentially Monroe counties, or Jones County as well. And you can also see when we flip radars, a little bit of something happening over here in Washington. So, you know, very small amounts because it's hard to even pick up on the various radars, but a little bit of something is happening over in these areas. The main event really is up there in North Georgia. And you can again kind of see that when we flip on this view as well. Occasionally we've had a couple of drops of freezing rain over in these counties that are in that advisory that we've talked about for the last few days, but overall, you know, it's pretty quiet otherwise. This is not a major impact, and it never was supposed to be a major impact for us here in central Georgia. It's obviously been more of a North Georgia situation over the last couple of days, but even the minimal impacts that we were expecting to see we're still falling even below that. So it's pretty quiet this morning. And when we flip over to the future view here in just a moment, you're going to see there's not going to be much more of an opportunity for frozen precip to start falling. So what I'm trying to tell you is that we're trending towards a best case scenario situation right now. Most of this moisture is trending a little bit further to the north of us. We've got a few frozen rain sprinkles happening in our northernmost counties, but other than that, the impact's looking to be fairly low. Now, like I mentioned, in North Georgia, that's a completely different situation, but us being on the fringe of that, things are looking pretty good for us at the moment. So here is the big picture across all those portions that I just showed you of the United States on the temperature map, and they are dealing with this just massive winter system. It's starting to make its way further into the northeast, and we will see this continue to push its way away from us as we turn into the upcoming work week. So I want to show you the models here in just a moment, but I showed you the sky cams just a few moments ago to talk a little bit about what's going on over with the freezing rain situation, and I thought this picture does a really good job with that. Notice this, what you're looking at right now, is weather observation station, and the whole entire thing has icicles dripping off of it. So freezing rain is so strange, like I mentioned when we were talking about the sky cams, because it looks like regular rainfall. Remember, this was never supposed to be a snowfall event. It was an ice storm, but when you imagine an ice storm, you may actually imagine ice falling from the sky. Now, that's not what freezing rain actually is. Once it comes into contact with something that is below freezing, it freezes on contact. So notice this got covered in rain that eventually became ice, and it looks almost like dripping ice coming off of this surface. So this is what the roadways, what surfaces and other features will look like up in North Georgia for the rest of the day today and into early tomorrow morning. Some of our counties that may see just a touch of this is what the appearance would be like, but overall, again, impacts here still looking to be fairly minimal. Now, not the case like I mentioned in North Georgia. In fact, I will briefly flip back over to the satellite and radar because we've been getting some messages this morning from the National Weather Service chat about other counties north of our area. Two reports stood out to me most notably, so let me find those for you here. The first one was from Cherokee County. If you're not familiar with Cherokee County, it is up here to the north of Fulton County. And the Cherokee County Emergency Management Director noted that they already have accumulation that has been strong enough to take down several different, sorry, I'm reading over that message to make sure that I say this correctly. Yes, they've been talking about having ice on trees and ice out on the roads, and they've already mentioned a couple of trees down and a few power outages. Again, if you're not familiar with Cherokee County, I'm talking about this county right here. Same kind of thing has been noted from Fulton County EMA directors. So in North Georgia, there is definitely accumulation that's happening, and it is happening enough to already cause some impacts. And they, as we can see if we look bigger picture satellite and radar, will continue to have a stream of moisture heading their direction. This kind of axis of moisture is still moving into this region, and they will continue to see some freezing rain through the early morning hours into this afternoon. And then of course in this wedge area, things could still continue heading into Monday. So they are definitely talking about big impacts. Obviously the fringes of that creep down into our northern counties here, but the impacts overall here in our northern counties have been fairly minimal. You can see these little dots from time to time. And other than that, again, things have been fairly quiet. So anyways, that was a bit of an aside. I just wanted to kind of show you that to show you what the impacts have been further to the north of us. We are still in this winter weather advisory for the counties listed above until early Monday morning. The ice storm warning for North Georgia, where those impacts are a little bit higher. In the highest amounts, we were watching for ice accumulation up to 1/4 of an inch, but I would be really surprised if we ended up seeing totals that get that high later this morning. I think we're in closer to the trace to 1/10 of an inch amount here in central Georgia. But big picture, again, I kind of showed you this on the radar. I showed you this on the temperature map, but also in the winter weather alerts. I mean, this spans almost half of the United States. Just a really impressive amount of warnings and just an impressive storm altogether. So let's play the models through. Like I said, our window of opportunity for this to really keep happening is becoming shorter and shorter and kind of ultimately coming to a close as we head into the late morning hours here on Sunday morning. So the HER model does a really good job with this. I kind of like where they have things because you can see it's just these really small sprinkles of freezing rain up in those northern counties as we go into about the mid-morning to late morning hours here. So we could still be dealing with this up until about 10 to 11 a.m. this morning. Just again, these are really light sprinkles here in these counties, but then as we head into the afternoon, all of that will begin to subside. Now remember, heading into the afternoon, we switch over from winter weather to severe weather. And we'll be watching that heading into the afternoon, the evening, and then ultimately fading out as we head into the late night hours here across our entire area. So it's kind of a multi-part story. Our new meteorologist, Danny De Silva, made this graphic yesterday, and I really like it because I think it does a good job breaking down what we have going on because it's multiple different phases of different things. The first phase is that our northern counties are watching for areas of possible ice. That's the phase that we're basically in right now. Then we head into Sunday afternoon, we switch from winter to severe weather. And then on Monday morning, there will be a small window of opportunity for certain areas to refreeze. Now, that window of opportunity is pretty small, but it is there nonetheless. We should be watching for patchy areas of ice on Monday morning. I don't think it's going to be a widespread freeze, a hard freeze where the roads are just completely shut down, but I think it's something that warrants exercising a bit of caution out on the roads Monday morning because you could encounter an area or two of patchy ice. So that's kind of our ice situation, but let's jump into phase 2 quickly since we've spent a little bit of time on phase 1, and we will talk about the severe weather potential for this afternoon. So you're looking right now at the Storm Prediction Center outlook for this afternoon. You can see most of our area is outlined in a level 1 of 5 risk, and a level 2 of 5 risk grazes Crisp County. Now, it's really mainly for the area that's over at the Panhandle in Florida, southern Alabama, and southern Georgia, but that level 2 kind of creeps close to us. And across our area, similar to a lot of severe weather events that we have here, we eventually work our way back down to a level 1 as this line pushes across us and does some gradual weakening. So I'll show you the graph model here to talk about timing, and we will talk about impacts with this as well. Remember, that freezing rain potential, a few freezing rain sprinkles is what I'll call it at this point, continues into about the late morning hours here. So now we're talking about 10 to 11 a.m. The freezing rain tapers off, and then we head into noon to 1 p.m., and that line of organized showers and thunderstorms approaches our area and kind of is crossing state lines at this point. So there's been some pretty good model consistency towards this entering our northwestern counties by around 2 in the afternoon this afternoon, creeping into the Macon-Warner-Robins area by closer to 3 or 4, and then making its way into the Dublin-Lawrence County area by 4 to 5. So we're dealing with this through most of the late afternoon and into the early evening, at least that initial brunt. So that will be kind of the severe weather time. It will make its way out of our southeastern counties by 5 to 6, and the severe weather threat should be over heading into this evening. But notice, behind that line, there is still some showers. So even after we lose the severe weather potential, we could still be talking about a rain potential all the way into later on Sunday evening and into the late night hours Sunday night. So it really is kind of split almost perfectly into 2 halves. Sunday is, because we have the first half of Sunday up until about 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. of freezing rain potential for the northern counties, and then after noon, the actual time noon, we will start talking about this severe weather potential for the rest of the area. And then, thank goodness, I mean, the future view stays crystal clear heading into the upcoming work week. So we don't really have any rain chances Monday all the way through Friday. I think everybody is going to get a well-earned break as we go into the upcoming week, because we just have to get through this Sunday and then things will be a little bit quieter. So what are these specific risks that we're watching for with this severe weather potential? We're in a level 1 risk. We see a lot of these all the time, so you should be fairly familiar with the risk here. It's the basically lowest end of severe weather risk, but we will still be watching for a couple of thunderstorms within this organized line that try to become strong to severe, meaning their gusty winds get strong enough to qualify for a severe thunderstorm warning. So we could be seeing wind gusts around 60 miles an hour maybe a little bit higher in some of the really strong storms, but overall, just a couple of strong storms within that organized line. Now, we're kind of entering that time of year where a brief spin-up tornado is always possible, and that will be something that we're watching for this as well. Now, I get a lot of questions about this, especially when I meet folks out in public. They're always asking me, what does that actually mean? You know, what is a brief spin-up tornado? Because I think to most people, a tornado is a tornado, but a brief spin-up tornado is basically when we get a really quick signature of rotation on the radar, and you know, we may actually have a tornado touch down, or you know, it's just an area of rotation on the radar that never ends up being confirmed, but it's there for just a brief moment and then it ends up picking back up. So these are not what we call long track, long duration tornadoes that can cause a lot more widespread damage. These are just really brief tornadoes that last for only a couple of minutes. So that is the potential that we're watching for heading into early Sunday morning. And you can see on this HER tornado parameter, most of the energy trends further to the south, hence the level 2 being, you know, a little bit further to the south of our area. These latest model data do kind of a good job lining up with what the Storm Prediction Center is saying, that more of the energy, more of the greens that you can see up here, stay a little bit further into the south where actually the level 2 is outlined. We have a little bit of energy here in our area where that level 2 starts to cross over into a level 1, and we've got, you know, enough what we call wind shear, which is basically spin in the atmosphere, to maybe support something, but the chances are going to be a little bit higher out in the level 2. So that will continue again as this line crosses across. The chances for this are definitely going to be better in our southern counties because temperatures in our northern counties are still going to have a hard time recovering after that wedge pattern starts to erode. So the potential for stronger weather is going to be better down in the southern counties, but you saw the level 1 now extends into most of central Georgia. So a possibility for stronger storms is there for just about everybody until this line moves on and we are said and done with the severe weather risk. So like I said, the temperatures kind of matter for this. Remember, we have only this tiny, tiny window of opportunity to work with left, honestly, across most of the U.S. All this green that you see here will be potential for stronger thunderstorms because this is where the warmer numbers will be sitting. So as we head into the afternoon, this is basically where that line is, where you can see the winds changing. This is where the line will be sitting this afternoon. Our temperatures in our northern counties are recovering, but slowly compared to our southern counties. So this is why there's a little bit of a difference between the severe weather potential in the north versus the south, because notice mid 60s, close to 70s down in the south compared to the mid 40s is a pretty big difference. But as that line gets closer, we do work our way up to numbers that can still support a couple of gusty winds in the northern counties. But again, compared to the southern counties, that's still a pretty big difference, and the fuel will be higher down right about south of I-16. So after that passes through, we head into the overnight hours and we enter phase 3. That is the potential for refreezing on early Monday morning. But like I mentioned earlier, note the timestamp here. We're at 4 a.m. already, and temperatures are just now starting to get near or below freezing. And then we make our way into truly freezing temperatures close to the time that the sun is starting to come up. So this is why I don't really think it's going to be, you know, a widespread hard freeze, just because the amount of time that we actually sit below freezing isn't going to be super long. So there won't be a lot of opportunity for basically long duration freezing, because the sun is going to come up as we head into the early morning hours, and then we will be above freezing before too much longer. So I, again, still think that there will be some areas of patchy ice to look out for on the roads on early Monday morning, but will it be a complete shutdown of the roads? I don't necessarily think so. It's just something that we should kind of keep in mind as we head into Monday morning, and then we will warm up a bit, warm up being a relative term, into Monday afternoon. The next couple of days are going to be really, really cold and really, really windy. So early Monday morning, the temperatures themselves are going to be a little bit of a hazard, because you just saw we're going to be somewhere in the 20s, and check out the wind gusts at that time. We're going to be somewhere in the mid 20s in terms of wind gusts. So pretty strong winds on Monday morning all the way into Monday afternoon. Wind gusts could get up to around 30 miles an hour. So we will have a very strong wind chill throughout the day Monday as well. We are in a cold weather advisory for certain areas as we go into the upcoming work week. And let me pull that graphic up for you here. That is for what looks to be kind of the western half of the state for that time frame on Monday morning. Now note the wind chills that they're putting on there as a distinction. You just saw the actual temperatures will be in the upper 20s, but the wind chills with those wind gusts in the 25 to 30 mile an hour range could be down in the teens, maybe even the single digits. I imagine that's more for North Georgia, but still, nonetheless, extremely cold for us here. So that's why the weather impact alert still goes all the way through Monday morning, because we still have some serious cold out there on Monday morning. And then heading into the 7-day forecast, we are going to stay pretty chilly and below average for this time of year all the way into next weekend. We've got a really, really strong cold air mass that's going to be sitting over us. We have now worked our way into an average high temperature for this time of year that is supposed to be around 60 degrees. By the time we are going throughout this week, temperatures are only going to be somewhere in the mid to upper 40s. So definitely cool. And then the overnights each night are going to struggle to work their way out of the 20s. In fact, some nights we will be in the teens. So a frigid week is ahead after this crazy week of weather we've had here. It's definitely going to be a week to pay attention to the temperatures, but in terms of the actual precip chances, luckily, it's really just what happens this afternoon, and then we can eventually move on and leave this winter weather potential, at least in the past, for now. So that's a lot to break down. That was 25 minutes of just straight information. So I know we are live on Facebook, so I'm going to go on Facebook and see if I can address any questions that may be out there or any reports. I know a couple of folks have been letting me know if they've had reports of anything out there. So let me quickly scan through these comments here. And it seems like, you know, we've pretty much covered everything. I don't see any specific questions, at least at the moment. But as you know, just from the coverage that we did yesterday, we are going to continue to be live throughout the rest of the morning. So coming up at 7 a.m., of course, we have our regular morning show that goes from 7 to 9. We will also be streaming that on 13 WMAZ Plus. And similar to yesterday, this morning show will be heavily weather focused. So if you're looking for some more information over the next 2 hours, me and meteorologist Alex Pry will both be here providing some updates through the morning show. And then immediately following the end of the morning show at 9 a.m., we will also both be hopping on 13 WMAZ Plus again for an extended look at the forecast, similar to what I'm doing right now. So lots more information to come over the next couple of hours. After we come off of the Plus app around 9:30, once Alex and I kind of conclude our extended forecast, we are going to kind of make a decision about what the rest of the day will look like, because that's around the time that the freezing rain will end, and then we will start thinking about the severe weather potential for the rest of the day today. So lots of ways to stay updated with us. And we will again still be nice and fully staffed through the rest of the day today. So keep checking back for updates, and we will make sure that you have the latest and greatest information as we go throughout the rest of today. So if you're here with me this morning, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you coming up in just over 30 minutes live on 13 WMAZ.